Hello and welcome to the Emotion at Work podcast, where we take a deep dive into the human condition, having conversations that you wouldn't necessarily expect. Hello fair listener, and welcome to episode 34 of the Emotion at Work podcast. This time last year, I was recording episode 16 of the Emotion at Work podcast, where I started off the Emotion at Work in Stories series, where I started to talk about how I'd been affected physically and emotionally by my experiences in 2018, and that I was coming kind of out from the other side of some fairly major surgery, and just starting to kind of get back into I guess work and life again. 2018 has been a similarly challenging year, but in a different way. So I sit here now at the start of 2019 knowing that I am about to go into my second bout of surgery to try and fix the physical pain issues that I have to work with on a daily basis. And I thought, believed, hoped that 2018 was going to be a year where chronic pain wasn't part of my life anymore. And to a certain degree that's true. The severity of the pain was a lot better post the surgery that I had, with the first round of surgery that I had. As I come into this second round of surgery, I sit here on the 2nd of January, and I think it's got to be 2 years now where every day I'm in pain. So that's 770 days of having to take some form of analgesia every single day to get the pain either to a manageable point where I can function, or to get the pain to a point where I can actually live life. And that is one of the real challenges I faced both in 2017 and this year in 2018. I've been able to be me more. I said in my in episode 16, I said that I'd really struggled with my identity, and I feel like I've got more of me back this year, and that's because I'm not in as much pain as I was before. But one of the things that I've really grappled with is having to plan my life to account for my pain. So when I look at my week ahead, I've got to look at how much travelling will I be doing, how much sitting will I be doing, how much opportunity will I get for rest, where am I going to fit in the Pilates that I need to do every day. Ideally, I don't always deliver on that, but where am I going to get the time to fit that in? Where do I get to fit in my swim that helps with my rehab? Where do I get to fit in the long hot bath just to ease all the muscles in my lower body? And that's not something I've ever had to do before 2017 and then into this year of 2018. And I know I'm not alone in that. I know there are other people out there who have chronic pain. And when I say chronic pain, that implies chronic physical pain, and I know it can be different in that there can be chronic emotional pain as well. So I know I'm talking about physical pain, but I know that the similar chronic emotional pain can be equally as debilitating. And when I listen to me talking about that, I can hear some frustration in my voice. I can hear my voice changing to show some frustration and some resentment about the fact that I've got to do that. And that is there without a doubt, especially when it comes to family stuff. Yeah, there are times where my wife and I will look at what do we want to do, or where do we want to go on holiday, or what are we going to do with the kids on these days? And we have to look at that and think, how will Phil cope with that? How will I be able to manage with that kind of day and with that kind of experience? And I find that a very difficult thing to wrap my head around. And I guess it's because I've never had it before, before 2017 and then into last year, into 2018. It's not something I ever really had to do before, and now I do. And I then think about the experiences that others must have around this. And again, I then reflect back to my experiences in the workplace. And is this something that we discuss and we talk about on a regular basis? And no, it really isn't. It's really not. And when I think it was in October, somebody asked me, "Oh, Phil, would you go back into the gainful world of employment again?" And I said, "Well, yeah, if it was right, yes. But genuinely, I don't know if an organisation would accept me as I am right now. For me to say, I know I need at least one day a week where I'm at home, lying down with my iPad propped up on my lap working. So yes, I can work and I'm productive, but I need to be horizontal. And when I'm in the workplace, if I had like a day of meetings, that would just kill me off. I was in an all-day meeting recently, and I spent most of it stood up or stretching, or excusing myself and going for a short walk just to ease the symptoms that I was experiencing. And the client was supportive and understanding, but if I was having to do that every day, I don't know, would a company want to employ me? I'm not sure they would, if I'm honest. Maybe I'm being overly harsh or critical. I don't know, but I would, if I think back to what my working life was like when I was employed, I would struggle to fit in that environment right now. And then if I think about the clients that I work with and the discussions that we have, again, I think someone like me would really struggle to fit in right now. I was listening to a podcast today where one of the guests, I was listening to the Three Good podcast, I should say. I should name check, shouldn't I? So I was listening to Sukh Pabial's Three Good podcast. And one of his guests was talking about how they felt there'd been a shift in flexibility and flexible working. And I agree. I think there is certainly more talk about it. Has that talk translated into reality? I don't know. If I think about the clients that I work with, 10% truly trust their staff to work in a flexible way, and therefore that leaves 90% that don't. And now the implication is that, of course, that that's binary, and I've created a dichotomy, and there are spectrums, of course, within that. So some are more trusting and some are less trusting. That said, that can often be down to the individual manager that's in the workplace. I really wasn't expecting to go here, but anyway, I have. So I began by talking about identity, and I feel like I've got more of me back this year, but I don't feel like I'm fully back as me, and that brings challenges with it. What I have found is I'm much more accepting, though. So I talked about the frustration, the resentment of having to live, kind of plan my life around how I manage the pain that I experience. As the year has gone by, I've become much more accepting of that and much more forgiving, both to myself and to others, in terms of the what's the word I'm looking for? The concessions or the changes that they make to accommodate me, and I'm very grateful for the support and everything else that goes with it. There's something else. So I think I feel less of a burden now. I felt like a real burden to people before. I know if I asked anybody that was helping or supporting me, they would never have described me as that, but that was a real strong feeling I had, that I had, especially in 2017, and I think I feel like I am less of a burden, or no, that's a poor articulation. I feel like I am a burden less often, and I think that's because I'm more forgiving and accepting of the fact that, to quote The Greatest Showman, this is me, and this is me now, so therefore that's what we work with. even though that might not necessarily be the me that I was or the me that I want to be, but it's the me now, and accepting that. Accepting that. I find myself sat here nervous, unsure, also though excited. If I was to try and put a figure on it, which I know is, completely subjective, yet I'm choosing to do it anyway. There's no doubt that I'm not going to put a number on it. So my phrase is, there's no doubt that I'm better than I was pre-first op, but do I feel well? No. So therefore, this second operation that I'm going into, my hope and belief is that it will get me to a point where I am well. And I'm accepting that I will never be back as I was, and I'm sure there will always be some form of discomfort ahead. Yet, if it can get me back to a point where I can fully engage in day-to-day activities for both work and family, that would be a big win for me, because that's the challenge. It's the not being able to engage in day-to-day activities, or having to plan me around day-to-day activities. That's the real challenge. I feel like I'm waffling and meandering, and I almost want to press the stop button and start recording again, but just because I feel like I'm meandering doesn't necessarily mean that I am. And part of what I talked about in episode 16, where I opened the year, was how I wanted to I wanted to evolve the podcast through last year. And one of the ways I wanted to do that was through people talking more openly and telling their stories about their experiences with emotion. And when I look back at the stats for 2018, the Emotion at Work in Stories episodes are all within the top 10 of downloads for the year. So what that tells me is that that theme has certainly resonated with people, for those episodes to be in there. And it's certainly the episodes that have caused the most kind of interactions and discussions on through Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook, or in terms of the platforms that they're shared on. Those stories episodes have certainly been popular within that. And that's something I'm really proud of, and I guess that's why I'm happy to let my rambling or my concerns about rambling just put them to one side, because what you're getting, fair listener, is an uncensored kind of insight as to where I am, because it's the links between physical health and emotional and mental health are strong, and there's lots of research that explores the links between the two, and it's one thing to understand that cognitively, but to actually experience that on a daily basis for 2 years has really got me thinking about the role of chronic long-term pain on people in the workplace. And I feel really lucky that I've had the flexibility of running my own business and being able to make those choices and do the plans that I want to do. And I guess going back to alluding to what I said earlier on, part of the reason I want to tell this story is because I don't believe it forms a big part of general workplace conversations. And it needs to, because it has a huge emotional toil for people. The emotional labour that sometimes I, and I'm sure others, need to do to maintain that professional or credible face that you may not truly feel at that moment is high. And the lucky thing for me is I've got ways and means of working with that stuff. generally in the workplace, do people have ways and means of working with that stuff? I don't know. I don't think so. My gut says no. So therefore, that's why I want to talk about my experiences and what it's been, what it has been, and what it is like to be me at the moment. Because being me is a tough thing to do. I really worry that sounds incredibly selfish, navel gazing-y stuff. So one of the other things that we talked about then, there's a nice change in footing for you there, everybody. I'd left a long pause to tell you that I was changing conversation topic. So if I look back to some of the things that I talked about at the start of the 2018 podcast, what did I say I was going to do? I said that I was going to create. I wanted to create a series talking about stories, which I've done. I wanted to do more podcasts with more than one guest on, which I achieved once right at the start of the year and failed to achieve again. So that's something that I need to do more of and go back and revisit, because I genuinely believe that opportunity to have multiple voices, more than me and one other guest, I think would make for a really interesting conversation. I said I was going to do 2 live podcasts, and I'm yet to do either of those. So they are on the list for 2019. I said I was going to do more exploratory episodes, again, which I managed to do once and haven't really done since. I also said I wanted to get some old guests back on, which I haven't done. That's happening though. So I've got my first returning guest is Georgie Nightingale, and she will be on the podcast soon. So I've got a recording set up with her in the not too distant future, where we're going to review where we were when we first spoke. She was on episode 5. I think it was episode 5. Way back in the early stages. So it'll be really interesting to find out where she's at. I said I wanted to get some industry-leading guests on, which we've done. So we've had Professor Carrie Cooper as the chairman of the CIPD, talking about mental health in the workplace. We had James Gross on, the world's leading researcher on emotion regulation. And I also said I wanted to do more with emotion at work. And that's happened as well. So there's the Emotion at Work Hub, which is shameless plug time. Emotion at Work Hub, where you will find a curated list of evidence-based emotion and workplace-related resources for you, ranging from discussions through videos, through articles, peer-reviewed research papers, and general articles as well. All of that is on there. There's a really Lara Croft has posted a very interesting article about how what makes posts viral and the importance of emotion within that. So I'm writing a response to her thoughts on that one at the moment, but it's free to join, open for everybody, so feel free to come along and join the hub. Also, Emotion at Work hosted the first HR's Open Mic Night, where we had a wonderful evening of raising money for charity, raising best part of, I think, £900. I need to check the exact details, but best part of £900 for Retrack and Connecting HR Africa, where to support the great work that HR professionals do when they go and visit different parts of Africa to support the teams that are working out there in country. So in terms of, I guess, my wish list of what that I want to do over the year, I've achieved some and not others, and I'm okay with that. Because life happens and life gets in the way. So what does the future hold for me? So I'm going to be out of action for a number of weeks now. So I've got a few podcasts in the can, but also I'm going to pull together some series of podcasts. So pulling together some of the older episodes and publishing them in a row to create a series of episodes that are linked together. So, for example, there are a number of episodes where we talk about emotions, emotional intelligence, and emotion regulation, and I think it'd be really useful to pull those together as a set and publish them so that you can hear a number of different episodes along the way. And what I'll do is I'll add my own thoughts and reflections at the start of the podcast as well, so that you get to hear my thoughts having reflected on the experiences of going through and listening to those podcasts. What else is ahead? Part of me doesn't know, really. I know that I want to give this podcast more time and attention than it's had over the last 3 months of 2018. October, November, December were incredibly busy times for me. Busy professionally, but also busy kind of personally, with just managing day-to-day activities just made it tough to plan extra stuff in. So this podcast is definitely going to get more time and love and attention over the course of 2019. I also want to mix it up. I said if the keen-eared listener would have noticed that my introduction changed slightly to Emotion at Work podcast, so we take a deep dive into the human condition, having conversations that you wouldn't necessarily expect. And that's what I want to do more of, both in terms of the topics of the conversation, the actual conversations that happen, but also the types of conversations that we have. I want to mix that up more this year. I want to say a few thank yous as it's my podcast. I get the opportunity to do what I want to do. So some huge thank yous to Bianca Botton, without whom I would not have been able to get through last year. Her help and support along the way, helping me with all of the work stuff that I need to do has been immense, and I'm incredibly grateful. Also to my friends out there in the Twitter sphere, you know who you are, so some huge thanks to you for your help and support over the course of the year. Not that they listen, but to my wife and to my family, they've just been amazing this year, helping me, supporting me, listening, caring, and just generally being amazingly supportive. So hugely grateful to them for all their help and support this year. And finally, to you, fair listener, I summed up my episode 16 by saying thank you to you, fair listener, because apart from Christmas Eve, apart from Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and one other day in December, my voice was in somebody's ears every single day this year. So at some point, every day somebody was listening to this podcast, and that absolutely blows my mind. And I'm incredibly grateful to all of you that listen, but whether that be sporadically or regularly, knowing that what I do here on this podcast is valued and appreciated, and prompts conversations and thoughts and feelings about the role of emotion in the workplace, then that makes me very, very happy. And that's it, to be a Ross Garner and to use his phrase for bringing the podcast together. More to come over the next few weeks. You won't see or hear much of me around, and I'll see you on the other side. That was a crap ending. Anyway, never mind. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Emotion at Work podcast, written, edited and presented by Phil Wilcox. For more information, why not visit our website, emotionatwork.co.uk. If you enjoyed the podcast, why not join the community at community.emotionatwork.co.uk, where you'll find other resources such as videos, blogs, articles, research, plus all the previous podcasts. It'd be great to hear from you. Thanks for listening.